Hello and welcome once again, ladies and gentlemen, to the Fox Valley Voice, the only live streaming talk show on YouTube and really anywhere. I mean, we're worldwide right now.
No pressure.
None.
No, not at all.
I can't talk, but yeah, we are talking about the Fox Valley and the interesting people, places, organizations, and events therein. And joining me live in the studio today, very last minute, and we'll talk about that, but we have Ms. Kari Lynn Kraus. We're just going to call you Kari.
Kari's fine, yeah.
Okay.
It's perfect.
Well, so thanks for running over real quick.
Not a problem.
And just for those of you who may have been ready to tune into a different show today, we're going to have to postpone. We were going to talk with Chris and Lori, who just opened up a barbecue restaurant in downtown St. Charles.
Delicious.
Yes, and we actually went a couple weeks ago. I had a giant rack of ribs, and so I said, you must absolutely join me on the show. But, as things tend to do, something came up, and so we're going to have them on the show another time. But I threw out just randomly on Facebook, I said, hey, does anyone else want to step in and pinch hit this morning on the show? And I was very pleasantly surprised to hear back from Kari. So,
raising hand emoji. That's,
yes.
I believe what I responded with. Hand raising emoji.
It was a hand, although it took me a second to ask myself, is that like a hand like stop?
No, it was like, I'm cool. Yeah, this is good. I like this plan.
I'm down. All right. Excellent. Well, so Kari, usually I do extensive research on my co-hosts. Usually a good 3-4 weeks worth of me going through your online references and files and things like that. But I've got nothing. So other than what I already know about you.
There we go. That's enough, right?
So let's just go ahead and jump in. Actually, I'm going to do something that I haven't done before.
Okay.
I have an icebreaker question for you.
Perfect.
Are you ready for it?
Yes.
Unless you would like to tell the people a little bit about yourself first. Which would you like to do? You want to give us your 30-second elevator speech, or do you want to do an icebreaker question?
Let's do icebreaker first.
Okay. So here we go. Which of the following rides would be your first choice? And there are quite a few choices. You've got 7 options here.
Okay. Ooh, okay.
You might want to write these down. Just kidding. All right, so here we go. Which of the following rides would be your first choice? A gondola in Venice, a cab in London, a Ferrari on the Autobahn, a hot air balloon in Switzerland.
Ooh, these are tempting.
An airboat in the Everglades.
I've done that.
A raft down the Colorado River.
Done that too.
A carriage in Paris.
Oh.
So those are your options.
A carriage in Paris.
Really?
Yeah, it's so that's kind of cheesy and like overly romantic, but I feel like that's something I haven't done yet. I feel like a gondola in Venice, if you want to count like the Venetian in Las Vegas, I've been there and done that.
It's just as good.
I've been on the Autobahn, but in like a bus, like a transfer bus. We didn't speed when I was in Germany. So yeah, I feel like some of them I've already experienced. So maybe because I have been to Paris, but I have not ridden in a carriage. I feel like it's a little bit of cheese, but I feel like it'd be good.
Yeah.
A good experience.
Cliche.
Yeah.
Some cliches are worth delving into.
There you go.
It's like when we went to Philadelphia, I had to have a cheesesteak.
Yeah.
You just have to.
Those are things that you have to do.
Yeah. Out of those, now it sounds like you've done quite a few of those. You said that you've gone whitewater.
Yeah.
Whitewater rafting.
Yeah, we took a trip. My parents, my dad really likes to visit all of I think one of his goals in his life is to visit like every single national park, which is.
There's a few of them.
That's extensive amounts of. Yes, I think that's his plan, and I don't know if my mom agrees with the plan when they retire. Like, let's go to all of them, and I don't know if she's sold on it yet.
They're going to sell the house, buy an RV, travel the country.
Yeah, actually, I just went over their house yesterday, and he was talking about retirement, so...
He's ready.
Oh my goodness, I think he might be.
Okay.
So yeah, I have been able to do a few different things.
And you've taken a bus down the Autobahn. How about London? You've been to London?
Yes.
You've probably been in a cab then, right?
We took that bus everywhere. It was like I saved up through college, and it was like a graduation tour.
Okay.
So I was not in a cab, but I can imagine what it'd be like. It's an interesting experience, kind of freaky to feel like you're on the wrong side of the road.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same way in Japan. I was like, I'm like, gripping like the side of the
Boy, you've
car.
been to
I'm like,
Japan as well?
Yes. For international art exchanges.
You're just showing off now. So anyway, out of all those, the only one that I've done so far is the airboat in the Everglades.
Yes.
Which
Wasn't it
was
amazing?
Cool. Very cool. I was a little bit jittery because they like to get you real up close and personal with the gators.
Did they feed them marshmallows? And they like literally, and there's no sides to the boat, which is frightening.
Yes.
And they're just like chilling. And you're like, if they really wanted to, they could just bite my leg off like
Yes.
right now.
Well, and the way that the guy explained it, not the host, the guide, the tour guide.
Mm-hmm.
So we pulled over, and he's feeding this alligator, and we're all just, a foot away from this thing. And in order to put us at ease, he basically said, listen, alligators are really chill. If this was a crocodile, we would all be lunch right now.
Okay.
So, moral of the story is, don't worry about the alligators.
Okay.
Although there's still signs everywhere saying, do not touch the alligators, do not get close to them. Leave it to the professionals, I guess.
Yes, the ones with the marshmallows.
Yeah.
I was like, why is
Who
he,
knew?
what is he doing?
Who knew that alligators loved marshmallows?
I would have never guessed. I wonder if they like Peeps too, because that's like a fancier version. It's like the high class version of a marshmallow.
Yeah.
Like let's coat it in some more sugar and like put it in the fun color and shape.
I bet that there are probably some picky gators that'd be like, no, I don't like the pink ones. Give me the yellow ones.
I only want the blue chickens.
Yeah.
Stop with these bunnies. That's not cool.
Yeah. So, excellent. Hey, if you're listening and watching live with us and you would like to chime in with any questions or comments, please feel free to do so. The best place for that is probably on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Fox Valley Voice. You might be able to get in touch with us if you commented underneath the YouTube video. But however you want to do that. I would say Twitter, but I don't have a Twitter window open right now, so I won't see it until next week. So anyway, let's back up then. We already know that you want to do the carriage ride in Paris. So I came to know you through a lot of the other creative people in the area, and then also you were instrumental in the founding of the legendary,
greatest place on earth,
legendary Water Street Studios in Batavia. So why don't we back up and try to get your backstory?
Sure.
What now? Are you from this area originally?
Yeah, I was born and raised in Batavia.
Okay.
So that's why Water Street's especially like important to me, is that it's in the town that I was born and raised in. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
And tell me about your upbringing in Batavia. Were you always a creative type?
I did. I used to dress myself. My mom used to be like, I'm not sure if you should wear that. It'd be like stripes and polka dots and like one orange sock and then one purple sock. So eventually someone just told her, just let her do it. I always liked to color and craft. However, actually in high school, I was on the track of, I wanted to do like foods.
Okay.
Like I wanted to be like a chef.
So more of a culinary.
Yeah, that was my path. There was an opportunity to compete in this competition, and I was going to train with the chef at Key Wester and like learn all my knife skills. Mm-hmm. And then junior year, I decided that I wanted to take an art fundamentals class because I didn't have enough arts classes and humanities classes. And then I was like, you know what? This is actually exactly what I want to do. I realized the component of the culinary that I liked is more of the presentation. At that time, I was super picky eater, and people were like, well, why do you want to do that? Like, you don't even like half the food you're preparing. Like, I don't really even eat meat. So it's like, why are you, I guess I could be like a vegan or a vegetarian chef. But
right, or they even have like raw restaurants right now.
Yeah, but I don't know. I just feel like to get through culinary school, I'd have to do like a lot of things, like learn how to cut up a chicken, and I just don't think I have the emotional strength to do that. Like, I don't know. So, junior year, I had this class, Art Fundamentals, and it just changed the way I thought about what I wanted to do with my life. And then I knew I wanted to teach. I knew that for sure. It's like teaching. I didn't know if it was going to be middle school, high school, elementary school, but I really got a job right out of high school, and it was a before after school care program with the Park District. And I was like, kids, they're awesome. They're way less annoying than I thought they were. So
right, because you don't have to live with them.
Exactly.
We were kind of talking about that in our pregame warm-up. But okay, so did you go off to school at all?
Well, I lived at home for 2 years, went to Wabansie just to kind of save up money and things like that. Bought myself a car, all that fun stuff. And then I went to NIU for 2 years.
Okay.
Their program, the art ed program, is fantastic. It turned out that the art ed program didn't quite fit my needs. And I'm not usually someone that quits things, but I decided that it just wasn't the right program for me, and graduated just with a BA in art. The concentration was fiber, which is the type of artwork I make. And that's actually how I was able to find Water Street, because what they don't tell you when you sign up is that you need to start the program, you need to sign up a year in advance, which is when I was at Wabansie. So I had no idea. It would have taken me 5 years, and I was helped pay my way through school. So
that's a lot of school to be paying for.
Yeah, my parents helped me out. So, and they did pay for my community college. So I didn't go into debt. But yeah, so I was like, I'm not into this. And for some reason, I don't know why, I'm done. And I graduated. And then a few months later, I founded Water Street. So.
Wow. Okay. So what year are we talking about right now?
I graduated college 2008.
2008.
High school is 04.
All right. So tell me about how Water Street Studios came to be, because this seems like it would be an extremely interesting story. So
mine, I think Joy tends to say, if you're not familiar with Joy, you think she's been a guest of yours before. She's executive director of Batavia Main Street, and also one of the co-founders of Water Street with me.
And then we are speaking about Joy Cortero.
Joy Cortero, sorry. Sometimes I just forget. She's like my best friend. You'll have Joy.
Joy.
Yeah, everyone knows Joy. And they're like, no, who are you talking about?
Yeah.
Most people do when I say Joy. They're like, yep. My story is probably one of the more interesting ones. I was the third of what we consider the 5 founders to join. And
who are the other? Okay, so there's you and Joy.
Yeah, Joy Cortero and Stephen Lockwood were already on the project.
Okay.
Joy had known Stephen previously, and they were she kind of accompanied him to a meeting. They got interested and involved in Water Street. At that time, it was called Batavia Arts Center. So we didn't even have a name for ourselves yet. And they had been involved for a few weeks, and then they had a small table on the plaza at Art in Your Eye.
Okay.
So that's 2008.
2008.
And I was home visiting my parents, because at that time I still lived in DeKalb. I just graduated, and I was kind of figuring out, what am I going to do with my life? Am I going to move home and try to find a big girl job, or what do I want to do with myself in my life? And my parents were like, well, you got to start paying rent on the DeKalb house, or you can come live here for free. And I was like, well, I think I might be living here for free.
Yeah, if those are your choices.
So I was like, I think I'm gonna head back. So I was just visiting them for the weekend, though. I had my dog with me, and it was interesting because I went up to ask them questions about, what is this art center? At that time, I was assistant director of a nonprofit art school based out of Sycamore, called Art Attack. And
Art Attack.
Art Attack. And that was where I really realized that I wanted to, I think it was like at my graduation party, someone said, what do you want to do with your life? Like, what's your goal? And I said, I want to start my own non-for-profit art school. And they like laughed at me. They're like, well, that's ambitious. Like, ha, ha, ha. And
oh, really?
Well, I mean, not like in a mean way, but they're like, wow, that's so ambitious. Like, why non-for-profit? And I was like, well, like, I just need to make enough money, like, to just like pay for the supplies. Like, I'm not out here to make like millions of dollars, like Scrooge, whatever, where he takes the bath.
McDuck,
yeah,
yes.
where he takes the bath in like his vault, like with the money. Like, I don't need to do that. That's not important to me.
Right. Does anyone in art instruction make millions of dollars?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe some of them. Some people, their fees are extremely expensive. Not millions, but pushing it.
Okay.
So I walk by, I have my dog, and the person that was there was just kind of like person volunteering with the organization. And I said, well, what are your, plans for School of Art? Because originally I was thinking maybe just a studio. I'll move home, get a big girl job, a studio, and that way I'll still be able to make my work and do whatever else I need to do to make my money. They said, why don't you wait here for this guy named Steven? He'll be out in a minute. And I waited like 25 minutes, and I have no idea why. I just was like sitting there, and there was a lot of interesting things going around me. And then this guy walks out, really tall guy, kind of like shuffling papers on the table, like, and he didn't say anything for a few minutes. I'm like, is this Steven? Like, I don't know. I'm kind of shy. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I was a little more shy in those days. And he turns around, he's like, can I help you with something? And I was like, I'm waiting for Steven. Can I talk to Steven, please? And he's like, I'm Steven. And then we just started talking, and we bonded over our love of Star Wars. They had a meeting. He's like, come to this meeting. I was like, oh, I can't go because I have this Star Wars class. And he's like, I think I like you. You're a good seed. So I started kind of going to their meetings, and the original plan for the School of Art, when I asked them, they said, well, we'll have this big calendar. People will just be able to sign up for when they need the space, and we'll have a classroom, and that'll be it. And I was like, oh my goodness, that's not how you run a School of Art. I was like, there has to be policy, procedure, there needs to be like curriculum development, there needs to be a catalog so people can register, forms. You need to be organized about this.
Wow.
Because that's what I was used to before. And I was like, I've kind of already done this kind of stuff. That's easy. And so within a few weeks, I was director of education. And they're like, okay, the School of Art's yours. And so during the build out, I was actually able to talk the property manager into like adding an additional classroom because we started offering classes at our temporary location, which opened November of, 2008. Mm-hmm. So like things happened very quickly. We already had a willing, space, like, and a willing property, owner. So that was really nice. So that was already there. We just had to make sure everything else kind of was in alignment. And
we're talking about Batavia Enterprises.
Batavia Enterprises, Austin Dempsey.
Dempsey
was the one who was like, let's add an extra classroom. Yeah.
Thank you, Austin.
I went in and I was like, please. And now we have 4 classrooms, not just 2. Makes me so happy.
Yay.
I know. So, yeah. So that's kind of how it all happened, is that like, really actually what I had done is before I stopped by, I was walking away from the festival and I got onto the footbridge. And then something inside me was like, you should walk back and just ask them about studios. So really, I don't even know why I went back and asked. And then that's why I was like, I'm not even sure why I sat for like 25, 30 minutes just like waiting in this like empty tent for this tall random man to just come out and start shuffling papers and then turn around and be like, who are you and what do you need? He said it in a nice way, but he was just like, who are you?
Yeah.
So
there was something deep inside that prompted you to go back.
Yeah.
And then to wait, because that was your destiny.
I think so.
Yeah.
Joy always says the stars aligned, which it really does. I'm not a huge believer in fate and all that sort of stuff.
How about karma?
Maybe a little bit, but not too much. I had never really put too much faith in that. I was like, things just happen because they just happen. Like there's no rhyme or reason. But for this particular situation, I do believe that if we did not have the 5 of us, and I forgot to finish talking about the 5 of us. So first there was Stephen and Joy. Then I came along. Several months later, Sharon Sikta came along, did our marketing. And then finally, Jim Kirkhoff.
Jim.
Love you, man.
Shout out to Jim. He's actually been on the show as well.
He's fantastic.
Good times.
He is good times.
Although I miss seeing him because he has pretty much relocated to the big bad city.
Yeah, he sold his house. Like it's under contract now.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean we love him any less.
Nope. I went and visited him last week. So
yeah.
Had a little breakfast brunch
Nice.
Party.
Good times. All right, so that was the story of how you came to be involved with Water Street Studios. You came in and started cracking the whip, got everything going on the education side. Now, were all of the individual studios part of the plan at that point? Because that's a big part of Water Street Studios is all the individual spaces. I believe
we had 26 originally slated. We now have 28. So we had 26 studios, and I believe there was going to be one classroom, one gallery space. We now essentially have 3 gallery spaces. One is our main gallery space. I think that's what most people just call the gallery. And then there was a stairwell that we actually like built out into a small space that's now off. We removed the stairwell off of the main gallery called Gallery H2O. In there, it's a little bit of a different vibe. Right now, we have a really cool show called Ensemble. It's for our annual fundraiser. So now it's just like items that are $300, I believe, or less. But the goal typically is $200 or less. And oftentimes we do sell things like postcards of the work and even like some of our embroidered like hoodies or t-shirts, so that people can kind of represent Water Street just when they're out in the community. But yeah, and it's a more affordable way because somebody might go in and really enjoy someone's work and they can't afford $6,000 or even $1,300. Like, that's just not within my budget. But they can go in and buy note cards with it on there. Oh, that's only $6. I can afford that. Or they could buy, just a smaller version of the piece. A lot of our ceramic artists made things like magnets in the past. You can afford $6, $12, whatever, $14. But maybe that big, huge ceramic piece on the wall, you can't afford that.
Right.
So,
but it's still a handmade piece of art.
Correct. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's the important thing.
It's all made by local artists.
Excellent.
And artisans. Yeah.
So, talk to me about how you feel when you hear people talking about Water Street, or I'm sure that you've come into contact with someone who has something to do with Water Street that maybe doesn't know who you are or what your involvement is with the organization. That's
some of the most interesting parts. When I was first involved with Water Street, I threw everything into it, and we all had to make it happen. And about a little over 2 years ago, I became a little overwhelmed with my involvement because I was working 40 hours a week for the year. And a fun fact about Water Street is, and we're changing it a little bit, but it's a volunteer-run organization, and it still primarily is. We have some staff that are paid small stipends, but really we're almost entirely volunteer based. So for, 4.5 years, I worked 40 hours a week for the organization, and I loved every second of it, but it became a little exhausting. And I kind of got a little burnt out. So I pulled back my role a little bit, and I resigned from the board, but I still wanted to teach it all the time, and I'm still actively participating in all of our events. I don't have the role anymore, essentially, that I had as much before. So instead of working 40, maybe I only work 10 or 15 hours a week for the organization. So then I think a lot of times when new people are brought in, they don't know who I am, especially in the past. I've noticed in the past year, people just don't know who I am. I love when I walk in and people are like, "How may I help you?" And I'm like, I'm good, thank you. Like, why is that woman in the classroom taking those things? And I'm like, it's okay, I'm good. Like, you can trust me. And they're just like, oh, okay.
Don't you know who I am?
That's exactly what I do.
Yes.
No. Not at all. So it's interesting, too, to meet.
I'm kind of a big deal here.
I know, like, oh, come on. There should be like a big like bust of me, like some like bronze bust in the entranceway. Don't you recognize me?
There should be like a founders gallery where there are big oil portraits of you guys in regal poses, and then you just stand in front of yours all day until someone goes, "Hey, don't I know you from somewhere?" Yeah, but it is interesting, and even just to be out in the community, I've heard people like just in Jewel, like standing in line talking about how, like, oh, what are you doing tonight? Oh, I'm thinking of going to the opening. I've also had a lot of people talk about Awesome Art Afternoons, which is our free art program every Sunday from 1 to 3. A lot of people are like, oh, I think I'm going to go to that art studio. I think Water Street Studios. Like, and they're like still working out in their head. And I'm like, yes, that's right. So that's also an interesting thing. And also because I'm not so on top of it as I used to be, I can have a little bit further back, so I can have this different sort of viewpoint. And it's interesting just to see how life-changing it really was, because I didn't know what I was doing. I was 22. I was like, oh yeah, an art center, that sounds fun. Like, that's my dream. Let's just do it. And now to see how important it is to other people's lives
it's ridiculous. I didn't realize what I was doing. I say that all the time. I didn't realize what I was doing. I was kind of naive. I was just like, let's just start this now. And
you didn't give much thought to the future impact of your actions.
Yes. I mean, we have a student who started taking classes with me really young. Then he moved up, he was really ready to weld. So it was Steven. He was with Steven for several years under his instruction, and when he became too old for me. And I mean, and he talked about wanting a studio of his own, and his family is so involved, and it's just nice to see them around. And you don't realize, I mean.
Yeah. Because there's a good chance that if you hadn't done what you did, there wouldn't be that outlet for this particular student or any of the other students. You know, where would they go?
I think especially with our Art Flow program, which is our community outreach program, I think that's one of the most important programs that we have. Shout out to Catherine Kratzer, who is our Art Flow director. But that's a program that I started. Actually, that was how we got Jim involved. That's a fun story too. Really, he just came to one of our meetings and had this idea for like an outreach program, him and his fabulous wife, Susie Kirchhoff. And they're like, we think that'd be really interesting. So how can we get involved? And then he wanted to make a documentary about us. And that was fun. I remember him showing up at our lease signing. And Joy had forgotten to tell us that he was coming. So we were all like, who is this bozo? Like, what is he doing? I love you, Jim. But we were like, who is this guy? And we're kind of like really confused. And he just like wanted to record it. And then he started doing a lot more taping of it. After our meeting at the city council one time when we got some of our funding, we kind of took him out for a few beverages afterwards and asked him to be our director of development. And that's kind of how his story, I think, is fun too. Not that others aren't, but like I especially think his and my story are kind of my favorites. So, Jim.
And as I mentioned, Jim was on the show, so if you are interested in hearing it straight from Jim's mouth, you can go back and find that episode and enjoy that. We do have a couple of comments for you.
Oh, yay.
Actually, one in particular from Javi Terrazas.
Ooh, hey, Javi, how you doing?
He's kind of a big deal
I'm excited for the death show. I'll see you Friday.
That is First Fridays, right?
Yes,
First
indeed.
Fridays in down DTA. Javi's doing a great job down there, and you know what? I'm going to start passing around a petition to get him on this show. He told me he's not going to do the show, but
why?
Because that's Javi.
Okay.
He's he puts on this thing where he's a surly guy, but deep down, he's just a cuddly teddy bear.
There you go.
Right? Is he going to kill me now?
I don't know.
Probably. Anyway, Javi says to you, thanks for all the work you have done at Water Street Studios. Oh, so he's just sending out
that's so nice.
A bit of gratitude for you. What else? Anything else? People are trying. Marissa Moni's out there as well. And Danielle. Do we know Danielle? Do you know
we
Danielle?
We do know Danielle.
Okay.
She makes amazing cakes.
Ooh.
Yes. I had a clothing exchange party. So fun. She made the most amazing cake that literally looked like it was a wedding cake for the party. It was ombre, like where it goes. It was like white and it went into like purple, roses, and then I put plastic butterflies over it. I think you might have seen that when we went to the jazz.
Is that the one that you brought to the... Oh.
And then I spilled on the table because I am clumsy. Fun fact, Kari is spazzy. It's part of what makes me charming.
Yeah.
That's what I just say to people. I'm like, it's okay. So.
Yeah. So that's a... we did get to hang out with you at the Jazz Age party in the park. That was at Potawatomi up in St. Charles. That was a lot of fun. A shout out to Kevin and Michelle Green.
That was amazing.
Because they are super cool and they're doing so many awesome things. We did a little video with them as well in the past about their Tri-City Swing organization. And they are bringing so many cool jazz bands to
the
area. It used to be you would have to go to the city to see stuff like that. But they're pretty much doing it on a monthly basis now. They've done it up in St. Charles at the Baker Community Center. They're doing it at Shannon Hall in Batavia. They've even done it up in Elgin
Yeah.
At Side Street?
They hosted an event at, Miss Julie was at Water Street, I think a little over a year ago.
Okay.
So yeah, they've kind of hopped around. They've tried some different venues.
Yeah.
It's nice.
But they are extremely good people, and we encourage you to check out Tri-City Swing and go to one of their events. What else? What else can we talk about?
Do you want to talk about art exchanges, international art exchanges?
Yes.
Those are really fun.
You are a co-host, so you are free to direct the conversation however you like. So let's...
Perfect.
And this is something that I know absolutely nothing about, so why don't you go ahead and lay it down?
Yes. Well, I've always loved working with children, and international relations is something that's really important to me. I'm still kind of figuring out where I want to get my master's, and I'm like, is it international relations? Is it museum studies? Where do I go? What do I do? So what happened is there's an organization called ICEC, which I am a part of, but perhaps that can be discussed at a later date.
Okay.
Further details.
Sure.
But it's a subsect of the City of Geneva. It's International Cultural Exchange Committee. And basically they had a delegation of French artists coming, and they needed a space to showcase the work because there wasn't a suitable space in Geneva, which is what they're connected to, Geneva. Mm-hmm. And so they came, they used our upstairs gallery space. It was one of the most amazing experiences ever. Shortly after that, they said, we're going to now take a delegation of artists from the Fox Valley area to France.
Uh-huh.
And I applied, and I was so pleased that before the deadline, they got back to me, like within 2 days, they're like, we want you, you're in. I'm like, what? I don't have to wait. And they're like, no, we like you. And I was like, oh, this is exciting.
Very exciting.
So I went there, and I had one of the most amazing experiences of my life. I had an exhibition, a group exhibition. Actually, Sharon Sickdo, one of the other founders of Water Street with me, went. There was several other artists, I think 3 other artists. And so when we came back, they said, we really like that you're so enthusiastic about working with children. And how can you connect that to us? And I said, well, I can do a student art exchange. Like, I thought that'd be kind of fun. So then A Tale of Two Rivers was born, an international student art exchange, which is a ridiculously long title. But I just called it A Tale of Two Rivers. So part of why the town is called Coissy-sur-Seine, it's about 20 minutes outside of Paris, is connected to Geneva is because they have a lot of similarities, like used to be industrial towns, both on rivers, all of these things that we have like parallels, and that's how they created their connection years ago. So I said, well, the rivers kind of connect us. So all of the students in the Geneva Park District Kids Zone program created a painting, watercolor painting about the Fox River. So some of them had like ducks in them, and we talked about the animals and the plants that are kind of by the river. Some kids just painted like bridges. There was very open-ended. Mm-hmm. And I went around to all of the different schools and helped them paint them, which is quite a bit of, we have 6 kids' own sites in Geneva, 6 after-school sites run by the Park District. And then in France, they had also done the same. They had used some different, I think they used pastels as well. So they made their work. They all shipped it to me. I organized an exhibition of student work at Peck Farm, okay, in their orientation barn. And then by each piece had like a little American flag or a little French flag. And it was a cookies and milk reception. And that was really nice. And then I actually packed everything up. I kept the French students' work as part of our permanent collection at ICEC. And then we decided that we were just going to ship our work back to, or ship our work to France. So they had a little exhibition there. So it's kind of fun. And then the students also were pen pals a little bit before. I wanted to get them to like really start to understand. And those French students spoke very good. They wrote very well in English because none of my students speak French. So it was a perfect combination because they really did really well. And they wrote us letters. And so we were pen pals and, exchanged photos and things like that because it was just a nice opportunity for the kids to feel like, I had a show in France. They mm-hmm. literally get to go, like a 9-year-old child, 7-year-old child's like, I had a show in France because you had an art show in France.
Right. And
so
who knows?
Really
who knows if that is the spark that kindles one of those children's lifelong, love affairs with art, right?
Exactly. And then I did a second one, which was really fun. I realized that I really loved this exchange, and I was like, but what if I can go this time? So my friend Zachary, who is currently back in the States, but at the time was living in Amakushi in the Kumamoto prefecture, so Amakushi, Kumamoto, Japan. You know.
Easier for you to say.
So he kind of messaged me and he's like, he really did a good job at his school. His Kawaura Middle School is the middle school that he worked at. And he got them to donate this entire wall space to him as like an art space. So he had a lot of different people send him artwork. So he was looking at my work because my work is incredibly lightweight. I mean, to ship it to Japan, I think I shipped 4 pieces. It was $15.
Wow.
Yes, because my work is like fabric. And he couldn't use pins because the walls that they had were like metal. So it was like an interesting kind of setup. So he put magnets on them. But it was interesting because when I went to France, I wasn't allowed to put pinholes in the wall because the place that we had the exhibition was a chateau, and it was built in like, I think the 17th or 18th century, so a long time ago.
Yeah.
And so I had to do videos. Basically, and Jim Kirkhoff helped me with this too. We took our upstairs gallery space and he did like a time-lapse photography of me installing so people could sort of see. And we mounted small pieces of foam core with the pieces in it. So basically we had those videos from the France trip and I sent them over. I just sent them the links on YouTube to Japan, and the students there watched those, and then they got to install my artwork as they thought that I would have done. It was their interpretation of how I've done it. So they watched the video. They're only like 3 or 4 minutes. And then they were able to install. So it was interesting to go there and see, because all my work was already hanging up by the time I got there, to see how they had interpreted my work. So really it was just a show. And at that time I was in the midst of organizing the France show. And I was like, I want to keep doing this. And I haven't worked with middle school students yet. So I said, what do you think about me maybe just like coming to, like, I'll just come with my work. Like, we'll just hang out. And then he's like, that sounds good. And then I was like, and then I pushed a little bit hard and I go, what if I went into the school and I taught? And he let me. He got it okayed. Basically, the techniques that I use when I dye my fabric, it's called shiborizome, which is Japanese. It's the way you twist or contort or mold the fabric and then dye it that creates the surface tension or design. And there's different categories under shiborizome, like arashi, which means rain in Japanese. So it was a really fun experience because the Western girl went into the Eastern classroom and taught the Eastern children an Eastern tradition, but by a Western woman. So it's just such an interesting juxtaposition, because most of the kids didn't even really know what shiborizome was, just because they're like 11 and they don't really know that much about it. But it was interesting, and it's more of like a traditional, like, craft in Japan. So it was interesting. And then Zachary was my translator, and because I don't speak very much Japanese.
Right.
I know how to say I do not understand Japanese. I know how to greet people, and ask where the bathroom is. But beyond that, there's like nothing else I know. So that was an interesting cultural experience. So I taught some workshops there, brought everything back, taught with our Art Flow program, which is also middle school age students. And then I gave them the pieces that the students in Japan did, our like Batavia students. And then they installed it how they saw fit. And then we also put it in one of their other rooms. They put it in their art room, and then we put it in their like fitness space. Like they have a dance space where we hold our program at Batavia Apartments. And then I sent the American students' work over to Japan, and they installed it there. So that was like a really fascinating kind of fun experience. And that's when I realized, like, I want to go when I do these exchanges. I mean, I like organizing them kind of on the sidelines but I really want to be there to teach. So I have an idea for the high school one. I have a location. I'm working on funding. So I want to go to Antigua, Guatemala. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Guatemala.
Yeah. Because I just think it would be a good experience. And I have traveled to all of these fun places, but I do not really speak very much French. I speak less Japanese, but I speak Spanish a little bit. Yeah. And I feel like that's at least something like I can try to like add in a little bit of something special. So we'll see when that one gets hits the ground running, hopefully
Yeah.
soon.
So now, is there some kind of a Guatemalan art form that...
That's a good question. I actually had a different inspiration. There is an artist by the name of Chris Hodge,
Yes.
who most people I think know in this area because he's fantastic.
Mhm.
Thank you, Chris.
Yes, he was very popular at the Art in Your Eye Festival this year.
Yes, with our art battles, and then he was the poster artist and everything like that. So he's fantastic. So he had these pieces. We had this show at Water Street that was called Exquisite Corpse. And it was like a project that 3 artists worked together on. One person did like the feet, one person did like a torso, one person did like a head. And you would like not see any of the work except the top like 2 inches of the bottom 2 inches, wherever it was going to connect.
Mm-hmm.
And then the person had to work on their project. And then we kind of all connected them. And it was like this creation that like you don't really even know what's happening until you like everyone puts their components together. So he was inspired by that. He did something called Exquisite Creations. He takes a piece of paper, folds it in half, draws something on it, puts the lines a little bit over, flips it over, starts drawing on the other side without seeing what he drew on the back. Mm-hmm. He usually does like 10 or 15 at a time, so we can kind of like not remember, oh, is that the scissor one or is that the tank one? Or so I've gotten his okay, and I've been talking to the high school, and we were going to try to do it at the end of last year. It's just funding is kind of something that I've kind of run into was a problem. So once I get that all settled out, I'll be able to go into the high school and teach, hopefully still, and then go to Guatemala and teach. So I think that'll be fun.
Absolutely.
Yay!
And make sure that you keep me updated, because
I will.
we might have to have you back so you can tell us some more stories of your world travels and what you've learned and what you've taught other people.
Yay!
I think that's fantastic. Well, and then you mentioned earlier, I hope you don't mind if I kind of steer towards your latest development. You said that in addition to the art education, you are also interested in museum.
Correct.
Right?
Museum education.
Education as well. And I was very happy to see that just recently, maybe a week ago or 2,
Yeah.
that you have accepted a position at the DuSable Museum of African American History.
Yes.
In Chicago.
I am beyond excited about this.
So tell us how this came about and what you're going to be doing.
It's been a little bit of an adventure because I knew that museum education was the field that I wanted to get into. It's been a little bit of a struggle because it's not the easiest field to get into. I would get these great interviews, but unfortunately I didn't have enough Chicago experience or museum experience. So this position came up. It's a part-time position, but it is amazing. I'm just so excited. So I also kind of look at it as a blessing, though, because I'll also get to see how it is to kind of commute and figure all of these things out. I'll be commuting into the city 3 days a week.
Okay.
I'll be working at an African-based school. So while I'll be working partially at the DuSable, but mostly I'm working at that school. So I got to create a curriculum, an 8-week curriculum where I go into school 3 days a week, and teach about DuSable himself, which I think a lot of people don't realize his impact. He's like the father of Chicago. And I don't think he gets enough credit because when I applied to the job, I was just like, I'm going to apply to all of these museums. This is a great opportunity, but I did not realize how amazing that museum is. It's fantastic. And they have a really cool new exhibition all about like the slave trade. It's I got a sneak peek of it. It was really good. Okay. It's like very informative. It's perfect. So yeah, we're sort of starting out with his African origins, and then traveling into, he had a really interesting life. His mother was like a slave. He was born in Haiti. His father was French, and sort of like a pirate. And so it's got this interesting kind of mix of like cultures, and both of his parents unfortunately pass away. He inherits this pirate boat, tries to sail to New Orleans, like New France, and try to figure out his place in America. And I love his story. So he makes friends with the Native Americans, goes up the Mississippi, ends up in Illinois, makes a lot of friends with the Native Americans, learns to speak their language. Like, this man knew how to speak 4 languages, and he really is this story of adaptation, and I mean, he has a huge legacy, and I feel like he's one of the coolest people. It kind of goes through a bunch of different things: his African origins, then about his travel here, his journey here, and migration and mapping, and then there's several lessons about Native American traditions, and we're going to do a lot of handicrafts that kind of accompany that because it's art based. The programming is art based, which just I'm like, I got a position in a museum and it's art based. I'm so excited. And then kind of goes and transfers into like his legacy. And then the last week is really the students' interpretation of how did DuSable mold Chicago and where do I fit into my Chicago? So it's more projects of like mapping and figuring out how they're going to design their own flag. We'll talk about how Chicago's flag was designed and what each symbol means on it. And they'll design their own flag. So really, I've never had the opportunity to create programming like this. And I'm so happy. Which is the best.
It sounds like an amazing opportunity, and I know you're gonna knock it out of the park.
Yay! Hopefully.
Yeah. And being that, I want to ask you a question about museums in general. Being that you're such a huge museum person,
yes,
lover and patron, give me, in addition to, I know DuSable is probably going to be on this list, but if you were to give us here in the Fox Valley your top 5 local museums that we need to visit if we haven't already gone.
Okay.
What would they be?
Is Chicago allowed, or we want
maybe
super hyper local?
No, I mean anywhere within this general
region,
greater metropolitan area. Yes.
Okay. Well, I am going to say that the Surgical Science Museum is fascinating. The International Surgical Sciences Museum.
Science.
It is.
Where is this located?
It's on Lakeshore Drive,
okay.
North side, like north. Actually, an interview there. Didn't get the position, but the museum is amazing because.
What will we find there at the Surgical Science Museum? I'm afraid to ask.
Something that has always interested me is science. Like my current body of work that's up at Water Street right now is all based on quantum physics. I've always loved science and artwork themed around science, and they have beautiful exhibitions, and not just Western medicine practices, but also Eastern practices. So it's interesting because I think we're all only familiar with the way that the West does it. But they have like a room all about Taiwan and all of these really cool instruments, and you can sort of see the history of different medical instruments. And then they also have an art gallery space where they really have interesting pieces. So I would say that is really one of them. I'm going to say the Depot Museum because it is one of the coolest museums, and it's adorable and located right in Batavia. And it's fascinating because they've got the cute little Mary Todd room. And for me, I spent quite a bit of time there because when we moved into Water Street, I wanted to learn everything about that building. And if anyone ever wants to come for a tour, you can ask for me. I will give you the full-on official tour, history and all. So
at Water Street?
Yes.
Not the Depot Museum.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Not the Depot Museum. At Water Street. That's where I had to go, though, to research the information for Water Street. So they were very helpful. So I'd say the Depot Museum is a pretty fun museum. I love the Art Institute. And I don't know if anyone's seen, probably most everybody, but they were just ranked like, I forgot what organization, but they're number 1 in the world or something, museum. They're amazing. That collection is awesome. The new modern wing is perfect. It's perfection. What other museums do I really like?
So that's 4 if you include DuSable. Are you putting DuSable on that list?
DuSable's in there.
Yeah.
Of
so
course.
we had the Surgical Science, Depot Museum,
oh, yes.
Art Institute, and DuSable. So we need one more.
Okay, let's think about this. It's so hard because there's so many good
No pressure,
museums.
but we are going to hold you to this for the rest of your life.
Okay, well, that's great.
Just
that makes me
kidding.
feel super.
Just kidding. You can always come back and give us your next top 5.
I really feel like, it's because can I do an art gallery?
Does it count as a museum?
Fermilab. No. I feel like...
Hey, you know what? It's your list. If you feel that it belongs on this list, we'll put it on there.
I feel like Fermilab's art gallery space is amazing. Oh, I also feel like anything at Fermilab, they have a lot of like exhibitions that function as museum. So I think that, but if we want to exclude that one, I'm going to see MCA because that Bowie exhibit looks amazing.
Yes, and that is just opened here recently within the past week or so.
Yeah.
The David Bowie Retrospective with lots of his costumes and artifacts and things like that.
Yeah.
Yes, a very interesting figure, to be sure,
Yes.
not only in the music world, but also in art and fashion.
Yes, I have a fan that has his face on it. In the middle of this, I have this little collection of like French flag thing. It's like a table setting that we had for one of the events I held with ICEC. So that's like what you walk into in my kitchen. You see like David Bowie and French flags, and I'm like, this is my life. I love David Bowie and French flags.
So, okay. What else? We got a couple more people chiming in here. Joy, we were talking about Joy earlier. Hi, Joy.
Oh.
She says, Kari, you are a rock star. The art battles that you did for Art in Your Eye were so cool. Would you consider hosting a pumpkin carving battle for the upcoming Bat Fest?
Heck yes. That sounds amazing. I love that idea.
So there you go.
That's perfect, Joy.
Live on our show, she has proposed and you have accepted.
I think that sounds amazing. I love Bat Fest.
Bat Fest is cool.
Mm-hmm.
I was just yesterday speaking with Joy and Jamie Sam about all
two lovely ladies.
Yes.
Two of my favorite ladies.
And they are movers and shakers, and they know how to get stuff done.
They do.
And I really appreciate people who know how to get stuff done. But I was just telling them about how awesome all of the different activities and events that go on in Batavia. I mean, you can pretty much every weekend you can just figure on heading to Batavia and something's going to be going on.
Yes.
You know, festivals and art and music and kids activities and, you know, trying to get the businesses involved and getting people to shop locally. And it's a really fun and healthy environment.
It is.
I feel.
Joy is a rock star. Joy, you're the rock star too. And so is Jamie. Jamie hops in and, oh my gosh, I can't even believe all the stuff she's able to do. She kind of, sometimes when, you know, a project isn't doing as great as it could, she kind of steps in and she picks up the pieces and she just makes it happen. So love you too, Jamie.
Shout out.
Hey, girl.
So excellent. What else? We've got a couple of minutes left.
Okay.
I feel like we've covered a lot of territory.
We have.
Is there something that we need to add here before we sign off?
Can I talk a little bit about our current exhibition at Water Street?
Yes, the ensemble.
Yeah. So for those that aren't familiar, our annual fundraiser, this is the third year we've done it, is a fashion and art show. But really, while it involves fashion, I feel like it's more performance art on the runway. It's very interesting. So BEI generously donated the loading dock space, which is right connected directly to us. It's fantastic. And we just line it with some chairs. And we've had different themes. Like the first year was cities. Last year was the chair and what you wear. It was sort of like a surrealist approach to the show. And then this year was Avenue and Passage. So I feel like that was probably one of the most interesting themes that we've chosen. And really all it is we have accessory designers, we have fashion designers. The fashion isn't necessarily wearable fashion in terms of like I'm going to go to the grocery store in this beautiful ensemble. It's like This is a looks like a kimono style. That's one of my favorite pieces. It's made by Claudia Kennan and Catherine Kratzer, who does our Art Flow program. And it's just like you had these beautiful sleeves. It was like kimono style in the skirt, and it was hand cut, like out of the paper. There's these tiny little like people and buildings. It was and I'm forgetting the name of it. Shoot, it was one of the major like intersections in Tokyo. So and then there was another one where these girls came out in a cluster, a group of 3, all in these black velvet dresses, and they kind of like moved together. But then as they broke away, the parts where they had been touching were all like sort of like interesting, sort of look like guts, kind of. It was interesting. And we saw 2 pieces that were inspired by stalactites and stalagmites. Mm-hmm. So really there's a lot of people interpret the theme in such different ways. The art gallery space is set up phenomenally. Shout out to Rita Grenzi and Jen Evans. There's a lot of people that worked on that project, but it really is. We have the fashion in there now. We have the accessories in there now, which those both came down the runway. And then there's just a visual art component. So we have some people that have made these Jen has these huge pieces that have a lot of nice resin on them. We have Steve Banks, who has some really beautiful pieces, sort of like urban inspired paintings. I have a whole room, which is really exciting. I've never worked on that scale before. It's all based on quantum mechanics. I explored avenues and passages at the most basic level. Like, you can't get any smaller than quantum.
Right.
It's also very confusing, let me tell you that. Many a trip to Fermilab, many books read, many books not understood. Lots of Feynman lectures. Richard Feynman, listen to his lectures. He's a very interesting person. So yeah, it was a really good event, and that shows up for the next few weeks if anyone wanted to go check it out. But it's fantastic.
I'm gonna have to go check it out just because I have absolutely no idea how one would translate the theory of quantum physics into visual art.
Yeah, I can give you a brief. We have a minute.
We have a minute.
Okay, so it's our south classroom space, the one that has the carpet on it. I don't know if you're familiar with that, and bookshelves. The bookshelves are covered up, but so I have 3 walls. You walk in, there's a smaller wall because it shares 2 doorways on it, and that's sort of like my process wall. So that was actually the previous show at Water Street. So it was kind of all about my process, just different notes and samples and things that maybe had not worked out that I'd wanted to work out, on my artist statement, all of that fun stuff. Then the huge wall, the largest wall, actually has 40 embroidery hoops of various sizes, and within each one is a small study, either based on quantum entanglement, loop quantum theory. What else do I have? I have Feynman diagrams, string theory. I got really interested in string theory. So all of these different components, and then by them they'll be like exhibit Q-1. And then if you really want to know, there's descriptions on that process wall.
Okay.
So at 40, and they're all various sizes, and some of them are pins in the wall with strings. Some of them are, they're all mostly made on vellum, which is like got a little bit of transparency to them, and they're embroidered. Some of them, it's text that I've written out. Some of them are just like clusters of strings kind of clumped together and just kind of put on the vellum. There's charts and graphs that have been realized in embroidery format. And then the final wall, which is what people are most familiar with me, is the fiber installation. So it's strings of like white strings with tiny pieces of black silk organza and a few like red, blue, and green pieces kind of interspersed. And they're kind of come out on an angle. My brother, shout out to Michael Kraus, made me this tiny little pedestal. And they like kind of stretch out about a foot into the room, and then they stretch out into the ceiling as well. It's a very interesting. That one's based on quantum entanglement.
Okay.
Yes.
So have you sent an invitation to anybody at Fermilab to come and view your work and maybe give you some feedback on how they feel about it?
I feel nervous about it because I've experienced, I don't know, Georgia Schwinder, who is actually the person that kind of organizes all of those shows. They have an amazing show up, by the way, now, so go there now.
At Fermilab.
Yes, they do. And so she was kind of the person that I met with and talked with and spoke with, and she was sort of like, I had this freak out in the middle of like the process where I was like, this is a 5-month process. My proposal was accepted 5 months ago, and I was like, I don't know if I can do this. I freaked out because on a whim, I submitted the Feynman diagram inspired installation, and my stomach's growling. Excuse me.
we're almost
Sorry,
done.
You can hear that.
We're almost done.
So I kind of submitted it at the last moment, and she accepted, and so I didn't really have a lot of time to think about it. Kind of like how I jumped into Water Street. I just kind of sometimes just jump into things.
Yeah.
So then
kind of like today when you decided 5 minutes before the show started.
That's how I just do that. That's how I roll.
Today, yeah.
And I got really frustrated because I was like, I don't know anything about quantum. I'm trying to read this. I don't understand. I'm so stressed out. And she's just like, it's your interpretation. Just listen and enjoy and relax and just do what you want to do. So I've been thinking about it, but I'm also nervous because here are these people that's what they've studied for. That's, this is what they're, graduate, like PhD, they're super intelligent people. And actually somebody the other day when I was at Trader Joe's was like I tell everyone about everything because I'm just like friendly. And he's like, what are you doing? Are you blah, blah, blah? And I was like, oh, I'm working on this installation. He's like, oh, so you're like a smartist. like a smart artist. I thought that was like the nicest compliment ever.
Smartest.
But I feel like I'm not that smart compared to these people. So I feel like I'd be nervous about inviting the lovely people at Fermilab because I don't know how my work would be interpreted. I don't know if they would be so literal in terms of like, this is not exactly how it's represented. It's more my interpretation. So I don't know.
But I would like to encourage you to reach out to them.
Okay.
And this is why. Because you put that much time into it, and because it is not a white paper, okay? You're not trying to advance the field of quantum physics.
Yes, I am not.
Okay? But since it's been such a huge part of your life in these past 5 months, I think that it would really be interesting, and you might get feedback on both sides of the spectrum. You know, like, hey, I really love this. I love what you did here. Or you could also get, hey, this is garbage.
Maybe. Yeah.
I mean, probably not.
I guess.
Probably not.
I don't know. Maybe.
But I think that it would be worthwhile. I think it would
Yeah.
be worthwhile for you to have that kind of interaction with these people who you've been studying and gaining an appreciation for. And, you know, and I think it would be an opportunity for them to come out and experience these concepts and theories that they work with on a daily basis in a completely different light.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I have seen sometimes their reaction to other like pieces in the gallery, and I think that might have been what made me scared. But I feel like it's worth it to
Yes.
open up the opportunity and
Well,
just invite them in.
And you know what they say? You should do something that scares you.
Yeah, I try to do that, but sometimes I'm just like, oh. My work is so personal that I think I get a little nervous. But I'll do it.
Do it.
Invite those Fermilab folks. Come on over, check it out, give me your thoughts.
Yes.
Comment cards.
I really think you should. I think you should.
Perfect.
Excellent. All right. We have one closing thought here from another listener and a big fan of yours, Marissa Amoni.
Oh.
This is great. She says, Kari is one smart cookie. I am excited to see what classes she will be giving in her new role so that I can take my daughter.
Oh, yay.
It's great to see young women showing their smarts in our community. Way to go, Kari.
Oh, thank you, Marissa. You're a smart cookie, too.
She is, absolutely. So, I would like to thank you, Kari, for joining me on such short notice today.
Not a problem. It was fun.
But I'm very glad to get to know you a little bit better, and hopefully everyone else is as well. And where can we direct people if they want to learn more about your art or what you're doing?
Oh, that's a good question. What is my web address?
Do you have a website that
I
we
do
can
have a website.
keep up with you?
Kari Kraus /Carbon Made. I am so bad. I should know that, and I don't. Kari Kraus artist. Type that into the Google search. I apologize. I'm sorry. I'm not more prepared.
Kari Kraus artist.
Yeah, but I also have a Facebook page as well. It's just Kari Kraus artist. So that, and then there's information on my website too, which is it's a Carbon Made account. I believe it's Kari Kraus /carbonmade.com. 97% sure. Sorry. We're working on getting me, I'm in talks with the new graphic designer. We're going to work on making a new website for me. So I'm in the process now of picking out what I want to be my domain name. So I know things are going to change soon, but
Okay.
not in the near future because I haven't purchased anything yet.
Well, you just let us know, and we'll follow you.
Sounds good. But
Okay.
Kari Kraus Artist is available on Facebook right now if anyone's interested.
Okay. Well, thank you once again, Kari. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching and listening and participating. And we would like to thank friends of our show, Neighbors Magazines. They publish community magazines throughout Kane County in St. Charles, Geneva, Batavia, and North Aurora. And also we would like to thank Downtown Auroran Magazine. You can find them at... Oh, and now I'm spacing.
Oh,
It's
man.
downtownauroran.wordpress.com, I want to say. Now Marissa's going to kill me. Also, we would like to thank for our video services, the Drendel and Jansen's Law Group. They are in Batavia as well.
Good stuff.
For any of your legal needs, contact Kevin Drendel and the rest of the gang there at Drendel and Jansen's Law Group. Stay tuned. Not quite sure when our next show is going to be, but you will find out if you follow us on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube. Subscribe. Hit the subscribe button right now on YouTube, and then you'll get all that. So thank you, and we'll talk to you next time.